Hey y'all, it's Sierra, host of the Yes Lord podcast, where we make a conscious decision to say yes to the Lord every single day. My name is Sierra, and I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad that you're here with me. Something that's been on my mind recently has been secular music. So I had a friend who called me a few weeks ago, and she said, "Sis, do you listen to secular music? Like, are you still listening to it?" And I was like, "Yeah, and we had a conversation. Her and I often have these intellectual, godly conversations, and it's so great and it's so edifying because we get each other's perspectives and like the biblical perspective, and it's great. But at the end of the conversation, she seemed disappointed. It was like, "You don't get it. You don't get it. You shouldn't be listening to secular music." And I was like, maybe. I tend to base my thoughts on certain things, so I'll tell you about that later. But I kept that in the back of my head. And then yesterday, I saw a video on YouTube from a fellow brother in Christ named Nick Jones. I don't ever think he'll see this. I don't know if he'll see this. But anyway, Nick did a video on a girl who has a record collection, and she became a Christian, I think, a little while ago. And she has this record collection of like physical records, vinyls. And on the back of it, she said the Lord had like directed her to read what was on the back of one of them. And on the back, it specifically talks about how the artist wanted a famous choreographer to choreograph a dance around this music. And the music was in three acts or something like that. But it was basically talking about how that person wanted the evil spirit that the music was made for to like manifest through this musical dance and the music itself. And I was just like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. The implication to me is that you really can't trust nothing. Like any and everything can be something crazy, something that's being done by the enemy. And while you could say it's crazy to live your life that way, I think as Christians, especially during this time, that we have to be a little bit more vigilant than we used to be. So she was talking about how she loves classical music. And it was like, okay, classical music, you think there's not much lyrics. It's just kind of feelings, emotions. It just kind of is the sounds. But it's like, yes, the intentionality even behind classical music can be demonic. And I'm like, that's crazy because you think you're safe and you're not safe. But I wanted to get into this theme because I'm like, okay, after what my friend said and after seeing this video, I was just like, I feel like this is something that is probably across a lot of people's minds right now. So I wanted to get into it. And I was like, okay, God, is music a sin? Maybe instead of asking if music is a sin, maybe the better question is whatever I'm listening to edifying? Because outright music is not a sin. It's not just in general, but you have to look at the intentionality behind the music. You have to look at the lyrics. And that's what I want to talk about today. In Proverbs 4:23, it says, "Guard your hearts, for everything that we do flows from it." And in Matthew 6:22, Jesus says, "The eye is the lamp of the body." Now, in that second context, Jesus is talking about having a clear and singular focus on God and his light rather than money or greed, and focusing on which one is better of those two. But I think that applies to music, right? Like guarding your heart, being careful of what goes through your ear gates and your eye gates, what you see and what you listen to. I've heard there were some Christian people who like, I love God, but I also love horror movies and I love slasher films. And I'm like, I don't see how the two correlate because people killing people in that and destroying bodies and whatnot, but you love the Lord. This may sound like judgment. I mean, I'm not trying to judge. I'm not trying to judge. We all like what we like for different reasons, but it's the principle of it doesn't match. And obviously, if you're watching or listening to things that are violent or are sexual, you start to get in that mood. It's an energy. There's a spirit behind that. So, how does this really pertain to music? Music is such a integral part of life, right? We play it at celebrations. We play it at funerals. We sing it to children. We use it to get us pumped up at the gym, or we get it to calm us down if we're feeling angry. We like to have it to feel those emotions. But because it's such an integral part, we can't say that our music choices don't matter. Lucifer's job in heaven was as the director of music in what we call church today. So if music is not important And if he was the director of light, you think those skills and all that wisdom just went away? It's like, no, the airwaves, the earth that's controlled by it, the entertainment industry. I mean, we see all of the craziness coming out of the entertainment industry nowadays. And you can tell that there's a driving force, an evil driving force behind it. Is everyone's intention to be evil and do evil things in music? I don't think so. But is there a force at play behind it? There most definitely is. And before you say I'm being religious, I have to admit to you, I love me some secular music. I love to sing a little Brandy. You know, she was my favorite person growing up. I love to sing a little, I mean, whoever else is out there. There's so many songs, and you could say, oh, you're being too religious. Not everything is that deep, but it really is because just like that girl didn't know on the back of her record that she was just listening to, that she just thought it was music, but on the very back of the record, it was like, we hope that this music will show the manifestation of the evil being. And I'm like, it's so right in front of our faces. But if we don't look, I mean, that's why as Christians, it's also important. And she says this too, it's important to just kind of look up everything. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I have not listened to secular music for a long time and I'm just listening to Christian music, songs that I used to love, songs that I still know all the words to. And I go back and I listen and they say something crazy. Slap that, bounce that. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I'm God, or the devil sold my soul to him. And I'm like, wait a minute. When did that get in the song? Because the thing is that it's always been there. It's always been in the song. I just wasn't as sensitive to it as I am now. So that's why I'm saying let's pay attention to what we're listening to. I also remember seeing recently on another Brother in Christ channel, he showed a video. And if you just look at the video, if you don't have sensitive eyes and a sensitivity to the Holy Spirit, you could just say, as a performance artist, she's always done this. She's always been a little out there, a little daring. This is how I knew that my spirit had grown a lot because I remember when I first got to college, came out and I was singing it and I looked at the video and I was like, that's a little weird. That's a little crazy. But I was like, go off. That's her thing. Now, seeing her performance of different things, I won't even go into detail about what was going on that stage. But when I say that my spirit was disturbed, I was deeply troubled. I had to instantly start renouncing and denouncing things. I had to instantly be like, God, protect me. God, protect the people that were at that concert because they know not what they do. Like, God, I pray that her heart and her mind will change. No one's too far away from you to come back. But I was so deeply disturbed. It was hard for me to go to sleep. That's how I don't even want to say the word scared because it it wasn't that it scared me. It was more just like I was so disgusted and so off put that I did not know what to do with myself. And then I saw that she was doing collaborations with an artist. I think I told y'all before I used to be a theater kid and was someone that I really looked up to in some ways because she had a very daring, very interesting performance art. She's what I would like to call an endurance race artist, like where she will put her body through very grueling things for her performance art. And one of her first performance arts, it's a very famous like artwork that she did. She basically had on clothes and she put, I think, 72 objects on a table and invited onlookers to come and do whatever they wanted to with her with these 72 objects. And at first, it started out light. People would give her a kiss, or they had a feather, or they would like tickle her or something. Eventually, it got to the point where all her clothes were off. She had been tortured. People had been cutting her with the knife she set out, and one person put a loaded gun to her head. That's how out of control it got. And she did that for 6 hours. And at the time, being a theater kid, I even wrote a report on her. That first original work happened in the 70s, but as she kept going, her performance art was just interesting. She had a session where there was a really long table and one person sat at one end and she sat at the other end and you just sat in silence and just looked at each other. People had really extreme emotions that came with that. They felt seen, some of them felt like, all of their trauma came back, like long dinner tables where one parent didn't talk to the other and it brought back those memories. So some people were crying from joy, some people were crying from pain. Some people felt like it was a really awe-inspiring experience because they felt seen for the first time. Like, this is what I was writing about. And to see how that has not devolved, but how it's always been, because now I see those experiments or that performance art very differently. Music, performance art is a spiritual experience. It can be, and it is. And I look at it now and I'm like, I'm so disturbed. The things that I opened myself up to, the things that I was okay with at one point, I'm no longer okay with. I've always noticed also when I don't listen to worship music for a few days that I feel a little off. I feel a little more agitated, a little bit more irritated. So this is something that I find interesting with the concept of, is secular music sinful? Is it not? Romans 14:14, Paul says, I am convinced, being fully persuaded in the Lord Jesus, that nothing is unclean in itself. But if anyone regards something as unclean, then for that person it is unclean. Now, in this context, it was an argument about food and what you put into your body and what was seen as clean and unclean based off of Levitical rights. But in this situation, I think it applies to music because he is saying that even though he was saying in this context, if you eat certain foods, that is what you will become. I think in music, it means that whatever you feel is wrong for you, if you have a conviction about it, then that is what's wrong for you. Like for me, for example, I don't listen to a lot of sexual music or violent music or anything like that anymore because it does something to my spirit. It influences me, to be honest. And I don't want to be influenced or controlled by those things. So I make sure that I keep my ear and eye gates away from those things. And I've found healing because of it. So this does not mean that sin is subjective. What he just said, mind you, it does not mean that just because you think murder is wrong does not mean it's wrong. It's like, no, there are things in the Bible that God obviously says is wrong, but there are some things that are more like you could, but is it edifying to you? Is it edifying to the Lord? Maybe not. Now, is it sinful? Again, if you think it's sinful, certain music, then it is most definitely sinful for you and you should not do it. Paul in
1 Corinthians 10:23 says,
I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. And I think we need a litmus test for that. So in Philippians 4:8, it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. So I would say that the litmus test for this is it true what is being said in the music that you're listening to? Is it pure and lovely? How does it make you feel after listening to it? Do you feel clean after you listen to it, or do you feel more cluttered? It reminds me of growing up, emo music was big, like in my time, like the 2010s and beyond. It's like, or I think even further back in the 90s, where it was like grunge metal, like all of the Nirvana kids and the headbangers and Smells Like Teen Spirit, and everything was just like, everything is wrong. And I have all this rage and angst, and I'm angry. And it was the emos, like I said, they were emotional rock music, emotional pop music. That's what emo is. It's like, everything is wrong. Life sucks. I hate my parents. And all this other stuff. And you start listening to that stuff and you're like, I hate my parents too. Darn them. Life sucks. And you start to live in these spaces and or you start to listen to rap music and it's like, F that B, get money, FBs and all this other stuff. My cars, my clothes, my women, or you listen to the artists today singing pop music and they're talking about their private body parts and they're talking about all this other sexual stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm listening to this and what am I taking in? What am I feeling by that? So is it pure? Is it lovely? What does it make you feel after you're listening to this? And then is it admirable? Can you, if you're being honest with yourself, can you sing that song you just blasted in your car to God? If he was right in front of you today, could you sing that very song to him? Now, I know that the Lord hears us all the time. And I know that as a kid, I was over there singing to the window, to the wall. Okay. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me if I know all the lyrics because I do. But why? Why? Can I sing to the window, to the wall, to the Lord? I cannot. I can't. Something that the Lord showed me a while ago because I was having issues with, like, okay, God, what do you mean by give this over to you? And I'm going somewhere with this. I said, God, what do you mean by give this over to you? So, in that moment when I was asking him, how do I give this problem over to you? I saw in my head me raising my hands like this. And I was like, Father, that's the posture that I make when I'm praising you. And it's no church adage. It's like something that we know in church to say, give your problems over to the Lord, praise your way through it. It may not look good now, but you just keep praising the Lord because then your focus is on Him. And so that physical movement you give, right? You're giving, it's an exchange. You give something to receive something back. So I'm giving my problems over to the Lord. I'm giving my anxiety, my depression, my fears, my doubts, my worries over to Him in exchange for His peace, His love, His acceptance, His endurance, His strength. That is an exchange. And that is something that I was thinking about. But only this week did God expose even more to me. So this is how it ties in. If you're doing like this to the Lord, I thought about it and I had the vision. I was like, what do we do at concerts of our favorite artist? We're doing like this. We're doing like this. We're swaying and we're singing all the lyrics and we're closing our eyes so that our senses can be filled. We're already feeling the bass. We're already feeling the instruments. We're closing our eyes so that we can hear better. And the action of lifting up our hands, that's an exchange. So, what are we exchanging? What are we giving to these artists? We're giving these artists our praise, our admiration, our love, our well wishes, our idolization. We're giving these things over to them in these concerts. But what are we receiving back? That is the big question. Because if that person does not have light in them, what are they giving you? What are you raising your hands to? The thing about it is, they could be exchanging their pain, their suffering, their struggle, their pride, their greed, their lust, their confusion, their anger, whatever it is that they're feeling, that they're expressing in their music, they could be passing that on to you in exchange. That is an altar. You are sacrificing your praise to them on their altar. And if it's not in praise to God, then we really have to ask ourselves, who is it in praise to? Even if you don't believe in demons, it would still be in praise to the individual. And are we supposed to praise anyone else or idolize anyone else but God? We're not. So I want to leave that there. But yeah, that's just something I was thinking about today. And I remember twice I went to away camp as a kid. Well, one of them was an away camp, I should say. One of them I actually went away to, and the other one was just like a 3 day like teen retreat at a church, a local church nearby. And in one of them, they had played 50 Cent's Candy Shop. Don't look up the lyrics. We don't need to do that. Just know it's not, just know it's interesting. It's very sexual. And they played that in the church. I was shocked by that, first of all, but I was like, I'm out here singing it. So whatever. People got up and they sang it. All the teenagers, which is even crazier because we were teens, we got up and sang it. And by the end of that conference, they played it again and barely anybody stood up. And the second experience that I had like that was at a camp, a Christian like away camp that I went to. And one of the pastors did like a sermon on secular music. And I got up in front of everybody and like this is so embarrassing now, but I was like, I renounce all of my demonic music. Like I'm gonna clear out my iPod today. You know, when there were still iPods, and I was like, I'm gonna clear it out today because it's devil worshiping music. And that's how I felt. But the thing is that now coming back to it, I'm thinking, and I might have done that at the time, but did I actually let it stick? And it did not stick. So now I'm like, as an adult in this place, the way that my mind is working now, should I start doing that? Maybe I should start a challenge. Like maybe every day I just delete 2 songs off my phone because I'm gonna be honest with you. I have, like, multiple playlists on Spotify, and one of them is my church playlist, one of them, which feels crazy because I've got all these other playlists and only one of them is focused on God and His praise. And I always thought to myself, if I sing more God focused music than I do secular music, then I'm doing well. And that could be the litmus. That could be your litmus. That could be fine, right? I'm not saying that's wrong or right. But in my heart, I felt like, okay, if I've spent so many more hours listening to secular music than I did to gospel music, then I felt wrong. But now I'm like, this is a struggle because I really love my secular music. Like I said, I really love just hearing the beats. I really love just swaying to it. So this is hard for me. This is something that is actually a challenge. So I can't sit here and tell you you must not listen to secular music and you're going to hell if you I'm not I can't do that. But what I can do is say this is just something I'm thinking about. And if the Lord has been convicting you about listening to secular music like he's been convicting me, as Paul said prior, if it's a conviction to you and you still do it, then it is a sin. So now that I am in this place of reflection, I think I'm just going to challenge myself. And maybe if you're in the same boat, maybe I challenge you to just every day think of a song that doesn't need to be on your playlist anymore. Maybe you could start with the more violent or overly sexual ones and be like, okay, that's done. I'll try not to think of it again. Maybe that's the right move to go. And hear me when I say this, there have been lots of times where God has spoken to me through songs, and it's not just been Christian songs, it's been secular music. So I'm not saying that the Lord can't use secular music. I'm not saying that it can't have prophetic words, that are attached to it, even if the person doesn't know. That's just God's grace, right? Music can speak to you, but let's just be more conscientious of what music we're letting speak to us and what the potential backing to those spirits are, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, love you guys. Join the challenge with me if you can. Let me know how many you've deleted today or this week. I'm really bad at saying this, but like, comment, and subscribe because I know that my tribe will subscribe. I know that y'all are out there somewhere. I want to find you. So, yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.